What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, and after a long year and a half, we return with Brian of Currents. Thank you for your call today, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you been?
It's been pretty crazy. The last time I saw you was on the North Lane tour, which was a hell of an awesome time. But this time we finally got a new Currents album coming out, The Way It Ends, which is coming out on June 5th. You just want to talk about how the making of this record was and the recording and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. I'll keep it brief, but basically we started putting everything together at the beginning of the year. By the time we hit June, we felt like we had enough songs and demos and everything that were ready for the next step. And so then we brought in Ryan LaTrue, who produced I Let the Devil In, our previous EP, and he helped us kind of mold the songs better and get the most out of them. And then once we got through that process, Chris recorded the guitars at home, and I went off to Lancaster, Pennsylvania to go record the vocals for the record with Ricky Armelino, and he's in this band Hawk, and he's also a Nice Night Kills, but he does audio work as well. And we went to his studio and got the vocals done. Ryan LaTrue was there the whole time as well and kind of helped the process. A lot of hands. Then it was all sent to Nolly, who mixed it, and then Chris Carmen, who mastered it. So,
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big cast of characters that help put the record together with us. But I think it turned out awesome. We're really stoked on it.
Yeah, and they all have had to bring in some newer elements sonically into Currents as well, right?
Yeah, everybody had their everyone had their kind of spot where they fit and helped put something into it. We've always really appreciated Ryan's songwriting ability and his way of making things more straightforward. Like, how do we make this better? How do we make you say this thing in a way that makes more sense to more people? How do we get what you're really trying to say out there? Ricky helped with a lot of technique stuff as far as tracking went, and I don't think the vocals would have sounded as solid as they do if we didn't have Ricky's help. Obviously, Nolly smashed it, Crummett smashed it. I think everybody really, with all those hands, it helped it become what it is. And I think it's still, at its core, it's a Currents record, and it's something that we're all super proud of. And it couldn't have turned out a better way, in my opinion.
Yeah. Was the I Let the Devil In EP that came out in 2018, could that have almost served as maybe a clear preview or a sort of good first taste of what we could be expecting on this album, or is that a completely separate entity in a way?
It's tied in. It's definitely tied in. It didn't happen the way that we had initially maybe planned as far as where the story was going to go, where the was going to go. But it was a really solid idea on Sharptone's part. The owner, Sean, he had brought this idea to us. He's like, hey, you guys, we had just had The Place I Feel Safest come out, and, we didn't feel like it was time to go in and start a whole new album yet. But he was like, listen, why don't you guys go in? You have songs. You're ready to rock. Why don't we do an EP? And I have this guy, his name is Ryan LaTrue, and I think you guys know him from his previous band, but he does, audio work as well. And I think you guys will work really well together. And he basically paired us. We met up, and the rest is history. He helped us make I Let the Devil In, and then we decided, cool, that turned out great. Let's do it again, man. Let's get a record going.
Yeah, it seems like Sharptone Records has almost been kind of really, in terms of the realm of quote-unquote metalcore, been really flying the forefront with you guys and Loathe and Crystal Lake and, and Miss May I and so many other great bands. I mean, it seems like you got a great team supporting you guys.
Yeah, it's funny to think because most of the bands I feel like that are in our realm that I really enjoy are Sharptone bands, and that's not to say that there are other bands that aren't killing it, but I think you're right, is that Sharptone is really at the forefront of this particular genre world, and they've really been making a splash, and I think Sean's been doing a great job. The whole team over there of really solidifying their mark in the scene.
Yeah, I almost feel like that they are on the big four of metalcore record labels in a way, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yep.
And they, yeah, they're great. They've been super awesome to us like the whole time. Very instrumental in like our growth, I feel like, and we wouldn't be the same without them.
Yeah. Now, one thing I was curious about is because when you release an EP between, The Place I Feel Safest and, now this new album is going to be, the first full-length album since 2017, do you almost consider this in a way like the follow-up to The Place I Feel Safest, or you kind of in a way just answer it, I Let the Devil In, this is more of the follow-up to that?
I think I Let the Devil In was a bridge to this record, and this particular record is, the spiritual successor to The Place I Feel Safest. Not to say that I Let the Devil In isn't part of the narrative at all, because I think it is, and we tie in I Let the Devil In with the name of the record, being that it's a lyric from the last song on I Let the Devil In. So it's all connected, but when we were thinking about how the record would be viewed and its impact, the closest thing we can compare it to is, The Place I Feel Safest.
Mm-hmm. And could this first single, A Flag to Wave, almost serve as like a clear representation of what the whole album is going to sound like, or is this just the tip of the iceberg?
Definitely the tip of the iceberg. We haven't really heard. We've heard definitely some. While we've had like a lot of really positive feedback, we've gotten a little criticism on the singles up to this point, where it's like, okay, well, it's a lot of these big singles, and I definitely want to stress that there are more elements on the record. There's some dark stuff, there's some quiet stuff, there's some somber stuff, there's some aggressive, weird stuff. Like, there's a lot going on the record. So I think it sets a tone thematically, but I don't think that it sonically represents every element that's on the new record.
Yeah. Is that like a preconceived idea to kind of like, let's make a record that incorporates a lot of elements, or does it kind of just happen in a way by accident?
It just kind of happens. Chris is a very diverse individual, and he likes a lot of different things, and he's basically the instrumental mastermind and workforce behind the band. Like, Chris will write and record demos of like fully fleshed out songs, and he has a lot of different tastes and preferences and things that he likes, and so it's exciting for me because he'll drop a song and send it over to me, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is like so cool and new and different from anything that we've done, and it makes me like super motivated to just try new things and explore my range a little bit to complement the songs. So it's mostly just kind of on the fly. Chris writes what he wants to write. I write whatever I feel like fits, and I'll make my edits here and there. But every song is kind of done piece by piece, and there's not really a big overarching thought process to the songwriting. That's more in like the arrangement of the songs.
Mm-hmm. Being that you work on the songs like piece by piece, do you find it maybe sometimes the longer you work on something, the harder it is to kind of like capture a moment in your songs in a way, or is that not even a goal for Currents?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's times where I'll sit down and it's like, verse, chorus, breakdown, verse 1, verse 2, like everything just flies right out at you, and you finish writing lyrics for a song in like 30 minutes. There's other times where I'll sit on a song for like 2 years or like 6 months or something, and it's hard to capture a moment, but maybe you capture kind of an emotion or a feeling that's inspired by a particular moment. So maybe you have something that happens in your life, you have a song that you think you want to write, but you don't know how to go about it yet, and then something happens that inspires that same idea, and now you have fuel to like really get that point across because you have something to say about it now.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Like when you hear the emotion, like because like especially like with the new album, because I feel like maybe Poverty of Self is different from like Kill the Ache, which is different from like Origin or Second Skin, etc. Like, is this emotion almost kind of like a self portrait of what you were feeling at the time, or are you kind of like escaping yourself and like telling the music from the point of view of somebody else?
I think there has to be like some personal experience in there. Everybody has their own stuff that they go through, and obviously for me, music and screaming in a band is kind of my way of getting those things out there. But I also do like to draw on things that happen in other people's lives and like my friends and my family and stuff. There's been times where like someone in the band is like, "Oh man, this happened to me," or like, "Oh man, I kind of wrote this like cool line or something, and I don't really know what to do with it, but like here," and then it's like I'll take those things and kind of twist them into our world and put them in terms of our band, so that I can take that same person later and be like, "Yo, dude, check this out! Like I wrote this, and I'm thinking about you," and then like I always want to have something that like the people that I have in mind can be proud of and happy to hear and be like excited about.
That's a good way of putting it. And like, in order to get like inspired to write, does like the inspiration come out of nowhere, or do you kind of have to like put yourself in a certain room or put yourself in a certain place in order for like ideas to sort of flow through?
I have to just sit there and just get it done. Other times I feel like sometimes that's not healthy. It's the thing about songwriting or just really anything creative is there's a piece of you that has to just sit down and get it done, and there's another piece where it does kind of have to come naturally. Something has to bring you to that moment. Maybe you're on a deadline and you have to get this song done and this song done by this time, or maybe you're kind of just sitting there and you're kind of puzzled about something and you're laying in bed and you can't sleep and you're just like, "Oh man, I have to write something." It varies so much.
Yeah, and I'd imagine like it's nothing could be worse too than like, have you ever had like the perfect set of lyrics written down and then like you bring it to the band and like they always go like one syllable over or under the actual arrangements of everything as well?
Oh, as in like bringing it to the band and then having them want to like fix it or like adjust it.
Yeah, has that ever happened before?
Oh, absolutely. Like the other thing too is it's like when you do write things, you have to be ready for people to either challenge it, hate it, or like want to kind of poke holes in it and like move it around and adjust it. And it's kind of a tug of war because you're like, "Oh wow, this thing in my mind is so sick and it's perfect the way it is," but then you have to be ready to listen to someone else's input, because you could have that same moment where there's been times where I've fought for particular lyrics and I'm happy I did because I think they turned out perfectly. But then there's other times where maybe I didn't fight for one and I regret it, or maybe I took someone's input and it's better than what I had. It's a tug of war, but it's kind of like you pick your battles, and it all has to do with how confident you are in the input of the people around you and your own ideas.
Now, when it comes to like when you look at the entire Currents catalog, from The Way It Ends to I Let the Devil In to The Place I Feel Safest, like is it almost kind of like a self-portrait and a representation of who you and Chris and everybody else in the band are at that particular time, or is it kind of like a self-portrait in a way?
I think they're very over-embellished, dramatized self-portraits. Like, I'm not like out there screaming and crying about like girls and stuff all the time, Like,
sure.
I think they're very it's art, it's you kind of embellish things and you dramatize things and you make them into stories, and like it's at some point there's truth in it, absolutely, but I think that it's a little dramatized. Like we're very like chill people that write very angry music.
That needs to be your slogan. Like they need to put out a new press release now that says that we are chill people that write angry music. Angry music for chill people.
Yes, angry, sad music for people that just want to chill and like play video games and drink beer or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, like it's funny. Do you almost feel like that the album, and even when you're playing live, are you almost kind of like in a way like portraying a character?
A little bit. I don't really feel that way. I feel like it's very connected to me, and I think that my big draw to playing music and being in a band is the physical like aspect of doing vocals and like screaming. I've done it for like my whole life, and it's easily like my favorite thing ever, just to go on stage and be a vocalist and entertain people. It's awesome. So I feel like it's very much me, and maybe it's not so much putting on a character as it is putting yourself in. I guess it is it's putting on a role, but I wouldn't call it like a character. Like I'm there as like an entertainer. I want to do like the crazy lows and the crazy fast vocals and get people excited and moving and generate that like energy that that I had at like my first shows that I was going to when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, when I saw you at the North Lane show back last summer, I mean, you definitely got the audience moving. I mean, I was watching from the seats because I was terrified to be on the floor. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like I want people to like want to get in there and like be involved, and then even if they don't want to like go in and risk getting like hit in the face or something, be able to just chill back and like listen to the music and enjoy it.
Yeah. Hence the term angry music for chill people.
Yeah, you don't have to move, but if you want to, that's great. We're not going to force you to do anything.
Yeah, when you put out a greatest hits compilation, that will be the name of it. I just know it.
It'll just be called Chill Out.
Yeah,
best greatest hits.
Yeah, and that kind of led me into my next question, though, because when it comes to playing live, is there maybe a similar energy into playing live as you do when you're in the creative process, or is playing live and writing music just a completely separate art altogether?
I think they're super separate, especially the way that we do it. Everything is very fragmented, and it's a lot of it is like computer work almost. And it sounds weird to say, but I feel like a lot of the energy really comes in when you go to play the songs, or when you sit in a room and you practice the songs, like getting ready for a tour or something, and you're like, oh man, it's a real thing now. This is so sick. Like a lot of it is. We do everything kind of cold, and you write the songs based on feeling and your like initial kind of reactions to hearing the songs. But then when you go to play them live, it's an entirely different thing for me.
Yeah. Are you almost kind of like are you guys trying to execute it note for note on how people are hearing it on the album, or do you try to maybe change things up a little bit and kind of leave people not knowing what to expect?
I think it's important to leave a lot. You want to play it the same way, and you don't want to like put too many crazy twists on it. But I think there is definitely merit to going in and doing things a little differently, or putting kind of a spin on it live. I definitely do vocally. Like maybe I do like some kind of mid-range vocal in a part normally, but I'll do a low there instead, or something to just kind of take people off guard.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way of putting it. And I mean, because when I saw you, because I've seen you now a couple of times, I just also recently saw you, we sadly didn't see each other, but I saw you on the Silent Planet tour that you did at Knitting Factory, which playing in a small room like that with your stage presence is pretty insane. And like, when you like are... when you're do you almost have to like practice your stage presence in a way too? Like, is like crowd interaction something you practice, or do you not know on how to handle that until you're on the stage?
Kind of depends on the stage. I feel like we don't really practice stage presence. I remember it's kind of funny because like that reminds me of like being in bands in high school and like just getting out of high school, where you would like. that's totally like a real thing where bands will like practice their stage moves, you know, and it's just so funny to think about now, where we're just like we kind of just do our own thing, but it depends on the stage too, because you wouldn't approach like this big sprawling like stage with a nice like you know, floor that you're not going to slip on. You're not going to approach that the same way as you are like the floor show, where it's like sweat is all over the ground. If you move too fast, you're going to fall on your face. Like, or maybe it's super tight and like closed in, and like I'm like right, like Matt's drums are literally right behind my back, and like Chan is right next to me. We're like shoulder to shoulder. So you work with like your conditions, and sometimes it's harder, and sometimes it's easier.
Yeah, and you just answered the next question, because, you know, seeing you at Gramercy Theater, which is a bigger venue, as opposed to seeing you at the Kingsland in Brooklyn or the Knitting Factory, which is much smaller. And I know, like, you know, playing with bigger bands like August Burns Red or As I Lay Dying, you know, you're playing on a massive stage. It almost has to completely be almost like a different Currents show altogether, right?
Oh, yeah. It's hard to curate your own kind of vibe and mood when you have so many varying factors, right? So you have like maybe you're on one tour where you're pushed up against the monitors the whole time and you can't freaking move, and then you have another tour where everybody is like sharing a kit and there's not a lot of backline. Like usually like a Europe tour will be like that, you know, like everyone will have like shared gear and there won't be a lot of stuff on the stage, and you're playing like inherently like larger rooms, so you have more room to kind of move around and have fun and you know, get your flow going. But then yeah, sometimes you get like pressed up and you can't really do anything, and it's not anybody's fault, but it makes your live show a little bit limited. And then in those moments I kind of just try to focus on crowd kind of interaction and just focus on what I'm doing, and it usually turns out just fine.
Yeah, and the final question I wanted to ask you is you know, when I saw all the times I've seen you guys have a very, very dedicated fan base, and you know, people really do connect with your music in a very profound way. When people connect with the art and the lyricism that you guys are creating, and you like, you know, when you hear on how your art is making an impact on somebody, does that change like your perspective on how you look at yourself as an artist in a way?
Yeah, I try not to let it change me in any way. I try to, you know, like I have the same friends I've had since I was like a little kid. You know, I feel like a lot of the people in my life are the same people that I've always had around me. I always try to stay like very like grounded and don't really think about it. And it's just kind of, you kind of have to take yourself outside of it. It's a piece of art that you made, and if it, or you had a part in making, and if it, other people can attach themselves to it and get something out of it, that's awesome. But you just, you know, I always try to like take it out of myself, because I feel like that would be, it's a lot of pressure, you know?
Yeah, definitely. You kind of don't want to let an outside perception kind of in a way get in the way of your creative process or something like that as well.
Right, or let it affect you know, your mental state, because maybe one day you get this profound story about how the music like affected somebody, or so it pulled them out of like a dark place, and maybe on one day it, you know, it lifts your day up and it makes your day, and on another day it almost brings you down, because you feel the weight of their experience, and you feel the weight of their like faith in you on you, if that makes sense. So it can go either way, but I think as a general thing, we love to hear stories about people's connections with the music, and it really does, it lifts us up, but yeah, it can be hard sometimes.
Yeah, I remember I interviewed Craig Mabbitt from Escape the Fate, and he said the best way he deals with that is just understanding, like, no, it's the fans that pulled themselves out of the dark time, and we were just, if anything, the background music of that situation. That's his way of kind of like making himself at peace with it.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't speak so much to us as the makers of the song as it is the nature of music itself. I know it sounds a little hippy dippy, but I feel like it's like cool. You like that's what music is there for. I'm glad that we were that piece of music that you feel like helped you out during this time. I have a ton of songs that feel like helped me out in dark times. You know, that I would just blast on repeat if things were not looking so great. Yeah. And I think about those songs a lot, and it means a lot to me. But I think it's just the nature of music. Like I don't put that same faith to pull me out of those situations into those individuals.
That's a very great way of putting it. And before we go, I want to first of all thank you so much for your time. Great to talk with you again. Before we go, is there just anything with Currents that you would like to promote? I mean, obviously, everything is currently on hold thanks to a certain virus that shall not be named. Is there just anything can we be expecting to see you on the road as soon as all this is over?
Yeah, we're going to try to get out there as soon as the world is not on fire. Mm-hmm. And, we'll get to play these new songs for you guys. New record comes out June 5th, and then live shows sometime after that at some point. We have a newsletter we just started doing. We're going to be doing that like every week. So you can go to our website, currentsofficial.com, and go sign up for that guy. And you get, weekly news about the band.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with Brian of Currents. Be sure to pick up the new album, The Way It Ends, out in June on Sharptone Records. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.